Do all nanomaterials behave the same just because they are small? Well, the answer is no, and understanding why is what makes nanomaterials powerful. Today we'll be talking about what is nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is understanding and manipulation of matter at size between 1 and 100 nanometer, where materials begin to show unique properties. It is an interdisciplinary field involving physics, chemistry, biology, and engineering, and it is the main driving force because of its potential for real-world and economic impact. So, with a simple definition, when we saw what nanotechnology is, it means understanding and manipulation of matter at size between 1 to 100 nanometer. When we talk about manipulation, it means when you have something at normal as it is, you try to make it to what you want it to look like. That is what manipulation is, and basically that's what is done in nanotechnology. But the difference between this and any other thing is that it is being manipulated at the nanoscale. So, secondly, another question: but if all nanomaterials exist at the same scale, why don't they behave the same? So the answer is this: one is the structure, which is what we saw in the previous episode, in episode 3, where we saw about dimension, where we saw about 0 dimension, the quantum dots, the nanoparticles, and we saw the one dimension, that's the nanowires and the nanotubes, and then we saw the 2 dimension too, the thin films and the coating, and we saw the third dimension, the bulk and mood unit. In case you do not understand this, you can always go and watch episode 3 of Nano with Zidyep, where we talked about the classification based on the structure. But then, and also there's one thing: different shapes means different properties. Like the shapes, that's basically what the structure means. When you have different shape, like the dimensions are different, you tend to have different properties due to that reason. So the second question is, but is structure the only reason nanomaterials behave different? We saw the classification by structures, which we saw the 1 dimension, the 2 dimension, and the 3 dimension. But then we are not asking, is that the only this is structure the only reason nanomaterials behave differently? Is structure the only reason why? So no, it's not the only reason why, because there's another classification which is by composition. That's another reason is composition, which is what we are just saying, what the material is made of. When we're talking about composition, we basically mean what the material is made of. And for us to know about that, number one, we have the inorganic, which consists of metals and metal oxides. So when they say inorganic, that means the composition of the material is metal and metal oxide. Like when you pull it off, like the composition, what it's made of, the building blocks. When I mean the building blocks, that's nano, the things inside it, the internal building blocks are metal and metal oxide. When you tend to have metal and metal oxide as the internal building blocks, or the building blocks totally, it tends to be an inorganic nanomaterial. So, and secondly, we have an organic nanomaterial. Remember, this is classification by composition. We are always seeing that of structure, which we talked about, the 1 dimension, the 2 dimension, and also the 3 dimension. So, secondly, organic, micelles, liposomes, and dendrimers. This is what the organic are made of. Like the building blocks are micelles, liposomes, and dendrimers. Like for example, when you pull up what the building block, what's made of is micelles, liposomes, and also dendrimers. So, and carbon-based, which is another classification by composition, is made up of graphene, CNTs, and fullerenes. So these 3 things are the internal building blocks of the nanomaterials. That's the molecules, graphenes, So when you put it, or when you see graphene there and CNTs and also fluorines, this is how it's classified as a carbon-based nanomaterial. So this is basically what we're talking about. We saw the definition of nanotechnology, where we said is understanding and manipulation of matter at sizes between 1 and 100 nanometer, where materials begin to show unique properties. We have also saw in the previous episodes between 1 and 100 nanometers. So your ability to manipulate that is what understand that deeply, which is what we are basically doing in these episodes. So we are basically doing nanotechnology, which is understanding, and also then manipulating it, to manipulate it to give it what you want, the property you really are looking for, is then another is what we call nanotechnology. And we have seen the classification by composition, which we said is inorganic, organic, and carbon based. And last episode we saw about the classification by structure, which is 0 dimension, 1 dimension, and second dimension, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, and also 3 dimension. So this is basically what we talked about today, and I hope you understand, because this is all about understanding, improving communication skills, and documenting my journey of learning nanotechnology and nanomaterials. So thank you for listening, if you have listened to this space, and I see you in the next episode. Peace out.